Sarah, Zay Flowers gears up for year 3. That means he has 2 more years left under his rookie deal. So it's somewhat notable when you get this news
1
coming
year
down the
plus
timeline.
5th year option if they exercise it, right?
Correct.
Oh, no, you're right. 3rd year plus 4th year, and then maybe 3 years then with the 5th year option.
Correct. So it's just noteworthy that Adam Schefter of ESPN just earlier this morning tweeted that he has signed with Patrick Whitesell's new sports agency. It's the Win Sports Group for representation. He goes from LAA Sports to now Win Sports Group. And while he's still, again, a couple of years out and under team control, it's just something that you got to watch, Sarah, because this is a player that I know you and I both believe could very well buck the trend when it comes to Baltimore's team building habits that we've witnessed over the years, spending or lack thereof on homegrown wide receivers that they have drafted. Could he be the outlier? Certainly trending in that direction.
Well, here's what's interesting, Bobby. You're correct that the Ravens have him under contract for 2, maybe 3 more years. But we also know that rookies become eligible for a new contract after their 3rd year. Right? So after this next year, he will be eligible. So I don't know if this new representation would push for that. Maybe the Ravens would want to do that. Eric DeCosta likes to get ahead of contracts. It's the opposite of what we've seen in Cincinnati, where they wait almost too long and then have to pay premium dollar by waiting so long. And so, you know what? If Zay Flowers wanted to make a move to push for a contract after his 3rd year, because he's at this point, he was a 1,000-yard receiver, first Pro Bowl receiver. We've predicted that if the Ravens finally pay market money to a wide receiver, which I don't know that they've ever done, that person would be Zay Flowers, because they like to pay their own. They like to keep their own. And so if anybody can buck that trend, it would be Zay Flowers. And so if he would like to push for a new contract after this 3rd year, he's going to want to follow it up with a 2nd Pro Bowl. He's going to want to follow it up with another at least 1,000-yard season plus, right? And so I'm intrigued by this. He's making a move to somebody that he obviously thinks puts him in a better position to help represent him. And so let's go, Zay Flowers. Like, put pressure. John Harbaugh says this, and I think it can be applied to the front office also. John Harbaugh always says to his players, make it so I don't even have a decision to make. Force me to play you. Force me to start you. Force me to where it's like I have no choice but to put the ball in your hands. He can do the same thing with Eric DeCosta. You know what I mean? Force Eric DeCosta to have to make a decision and that's his job. That's Eric DeCosta's job. When I say force him, I don't mean just by like the social media stunts that we see players do sometimes, removing pictures of you in a Ravens uniform and, not making mention of all that. I mean, you can all do that. But the real way you force a front office to do things is by playing lights out. Playing lights out. So if Zay Flowers goes out as another 1,000-yard season, goes to the Pro Bowl, stays healthy through the playoffs, is an integral part in perhaps a Super Bowl run, as Derrick Henry said, then yeah, he can make a case for himself after this year.
1,059 was the receiving yards total in his sophomore season. 74 receptions on 116 targets. He played in all 17 games. Yes, he was banged up in the postseason, but he proved to be durable all throughout the year, as he did his rookie season as well, playing in all 16 games. They didn't have to play the 17th. Obviously, they rested their starters that you guys might remember. But one of the statistics that stands out to me the most, Sarah, because I think it's so symbolic of who Zay Flowers is the yards after the catch. Of those 1,059, 596 came after the catch. So not only is he durable.
Those wide receiver screens, right? Just like throw it over to him. Go, Zay, go.
I was going to say the screens help that number. Yes, they do. But what I'm getting at, and you already know.
Yeah.
The Zay Flowers relentlessness, the refusal to go down, the willingness to go through you, over you, around you, you name it, has led to another element of explosiveness in the Lamar-led offense. And so that's the number that I keep kind of harping on, because I think, to me, that's what makes Zay Zay. That's what makes him different than a player that was similar in terms of measurables to him in Marquise Brown. That's the difference between the two. Marquise was either going to run around you, or he was going to run out of bounds at times.
Or just
Zay is willing to do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think that while they have similar measurables, Zay is built like an ox. And so not only is he willing to run through you, he wants to. And so there's a difference between the two. And I think ultimately he's just on that. He's trending towards what you just suggested, being a homegrown Raven that starts to buck the trend here at the wide receiver position and ultimately gets paid what he deserved and what he deserves in the coming seasons.
One other thing that's been under the radar, I mean, we've covered it. We really didn't talk about how big it was for him. Another thing that sets him up for a good season is he never had to have surgery. Like when he finished injured in the playoffs last year, we didn't know if he would need to have surgery. And then last time John Harbaugh spoke, he said, nope, he's back to 100%. He was able to do it without having any surgery. And so, he was able to avoid that. Nobody wants to come back from surgery. That's never fun. That puts you behind the 8 ball. So he can come into OTAs. He can come into training camp. He can come into the season fully healthy without ever having to have surgery to fit. It was his knee, right? It was his knee.
Yeah. I'm glad you just brought that up, because that was probably worthy of, speaking of under the radar or things that went right over your head, like the way we started our show with regarding Derrick Henry. That might fall in that category, don't you think?
For sure. Absolutely. Not talked about enough. Big dodged a bullet on that one for sure.
No question.
Meanwhile, this was funny to me. StatMuse, okay. I like that website. But they set Josh Allen up. I couldn't help myself. Bobby, you tell me how I was going to see this tweet and then just move along with my day and just keep scrolling. Like they
I think, to be honest with you, whoever's the admin of StatMuse FB, they might have had you in mind when they crafted this tweet.
Like, how could they do this? How could they do this? So over the weekend, which I missed because I was offline for most of the weekend. So I come on this morning getting ready for the show, trying to find some content for today. There's been plenty. So StatMuse puts up Josh Allen won 2024 NFL MVP. 4,269 yards, 41 touchdowns, 8. I'm assuming that's turnovers. No, between fumbles and interceptions.
TOV.
Turnovers. That's all I could come up with.
What the heck is TOV?
Chat's gonna have to help us out.
All right.
Anyway, whatever it is, they put a picture of Josh Allen there. They say, how many quarterbacks are better? And I'm like, wait a minute here. StatMuse is making a claim that Josh Allen was better based off of stats? Because everybody knows that Lamar was robbed of MVP because Lamar clearly had the better stats. And for all the Buffalo Bills fans that still listen to us to this day, they'll say, well, Josh Allen should have won it in 2023 if we were doing it off the stats. And it's like, no, those 17 interceptions is a stat. And that stat sunk his ship. Okay. So how can I wake up this morning, see this tweet justifying his MVP on the stats, and they say how many quarterbacks are better? I had to quote retweet this, and I put at least one, and then I put up my graphic that I will keep using as long as I can, especially during the offseason, that puts up Lamar Jackson's stats of 2024, which blew everybody out of the water. Yes, Josh Allen had 4,269 total yards. Lamar Jackson had 5,087 total yards. He was the first quarterback ever to pass for 4,000 plus and rush for 900 plus in a single season. Yes, he had 41 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson had 45. He had only 4 interceptions to his 41 passing touchdowns, which was the best interception rate in NFL history among quarterbacks with 40 plus passing touchdowns. He had 119.6 passer rating, which was, that's right, 3rd in NFL history. How many quarterbacks were better in 2024, especially best off the stats? Stat Muse just begged me to dunk on this tweet. They begged me to. And so who am I not to oblige? Who am I not to oblige? I'm a person of the people. I'm a woman of the people, Bobby. Can you blame me?
Well, they put it right on a platter for you, and you were just doing what they asked you to do. They indirectly asked you to do this, and you decided to follow suit. So there you go.
There we go.
And you weren't done bringing in Stat Muse. It's a busy timeline today for Stat Muse FB, who tweeted out that the most games with 5+ passing touchdowns by active quarterbacks is held by Lamar and Patrick. They will be facing off in Kansas City this year, regular season. Looking forward to that matchup, of course. But that is more than Aaron Rodgers has had in his entire career, by the way, they note. So a little subtle jab, not so subtle jab at A-Rod, but Lamar and Mahomes lead the way, right? Why'd they pick Aaron?
It's kind of funny.
I guess Aaron puts himself in a position to kind of get gotten after at times when people see fit. But that's an impressive number. It's an impressive number by 2 impressive quarterbacks, and we're going to see that matchup again, Ravens-Chiefs, coming up this fall.
Hey, just because we're on the topic, I know we're not doing, all the super chats yet, but I just like to do it when we're talking about it, when I see it come in, so it's on topic. But PHP, he's generous and he speaks his mind. So he says MV pity in full effect, MVP athletic. MV pathetic. There we go. MV putrid. Lamar is above the MVP lease. Let him win it. Oh, MV please. Okay. I got to start all over. He's got these. Okay. MV pity in full effect. MV pathetic. MV putrid. Lamar is above the MV please. Let him win it. And the paper tiger, who is concerned about schedules and contracts and not about making the playoffs when Lamar is healthy, he says, F them all.
That was definitely worthy of another reread because, first of all, good on you for getting it just 2 times. Because I think if I had gone on, I would have gone like, oh, MVP athletic. No, not MVP athletic. So well done there. But Park Heights Prophet. That was easier said than done, reading that thing in one shoot. But we appreciate you, as always, showing us love. What else do we have in this section for John Harbaugh? Of course, Nick Wright. First things first, they recently put together, according to Nick's perspective, the top 10 NFL head coaches, Sarah. And notably, John Harbaugh is snubbed. His brother Jim finds his way into the top 5 category, according to Nick Wright, who just made his way back to the NFL and is a darn good coach at both levels. He has proven exactly that. But John, not Jim, is on this list. John is snubbed. Jim is in the top 5 at 4. And here's his top 10 overall for the audio-only audience. Andy Reid, of course, is number 1. Sean McVay is 2. Kyle Shanahan gets 3. Harbaugh is 4, meaning Jim. Mike Tomlin rounds out the top 5. Kevin O'Connell is 6 in Minnesota. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay is 7. Pete Carroll, new organization, new opportunity at what? Is he 70 yet? He's got to be close to it.
He's up
Pete
there.
Carroll is 8 in Vegas. Dan Campbell in Detroit is 9. And Sean Payton in Denver rounds out his top 10. The honorable mentions, John Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, DeMeco Ryans. Your initial reaction to Nick's list?
Well, first of all, Pete Carroll 73. So just an FYI on that. Okay. Listen, I think we've joked before about how there was a poll that was taken where 96% of people said they approve of Eric DeCosta's job as GM. And then we joked how all 4% are in the vault every single day. Whatever percentage of Ravens fans are not John Harbaugh fans, they're inside the vault every single day too, it feels like. And I think even some of the biggest John Harbaugh haters, not all of them, but I think even some of the biggest critics of John Harbaugh could say that this is objectively wrong to not put him in at least a top 10 of current coaches. His own brother, as Jim Harbaugh, I don't think has ever beat John when they've gone head to head in the NFL as head coaches. I don't think he's ever beat him. Maybe in the preseason. I don't think so. Like John beat him in the Super Bowl. He's beat him on Thanksgiving night. He's beat him whenever. And so I don't, and listen, I got love for Jim, but how can you put Jim number 4 and his brother who has his number not even in the top 10? Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, I put very close together. So again, I don't see how you can have Mike Tomlin 5 and then John out of the 10. I don't know what Matt LaFleur has done. You know what I mean? Dan Campbell, he seems like a super likable coach. I like him. I might even put him higher. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. How you don't put him in the top 10. Now let me give you some context. So, because I do have some audio, because he just barely briefly mentions Harbaugh, which makes sense because he was only an honorable mention. But the topic came up because Nick Sirianni was just extended by the Philadelphia Eagles after back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. Was it back-to-back? No, 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 years, and then he won it last year. Eagles won it last year. So he gets the extension. And Nick is like, but he's not elite. I don't even have him in my top 10. And so they're arguing like, well, is there anybody else that you don't have in your top 10 because you won't give him you take away the team's success away from the head coach? And he says, yeah, John Harbaugh.
Well, it's Howie Roseman.
No. So that's
what
why
other coach in the league do you not give credit for his team's success?
What do you mean?
Like, you apparently don't give Sirianni credit. You give it to the GM.
John Harbaugh.
You give it to the players.
John Harbaugh, who was on my honor.
He doesn't get any success, any credit for the success?
I give it to overwhelmingly to Lamar and then to the front office for the draft and the roster. I just picked one out of a guy that I think most of the success goes to, Sean McDermott.
Do you think Harbaugh's a good coach, John Harbaugh?
Yeah, I think he's a good coach.
All right, what do you think of his reasoning there, Bobby?
I think it's whack, like his list is. I think his list is whack. I think Tomlin should be outside the top 10. I think Harbaugh should be outside the top 10, meaning Jim. I think Kevin O'Connell should be in the top 5. I think Pete Carroll at this point in his career, like you just confirmed, is 73. I think he's an all-timer. I wish him the best in his new adventure. Hard to believe that an organization thought that a 73-year-old is capable, and maybe he is capable. But at 73, he's closer towards the back 9, currently on the back 9, approaching Amon Corner, if you will, for the golf reference out there, in terms of what he has left in the tank. I know he is a young, and I mean a young 73, but at this point in his career, with a new organization, I would have him outside my top 10. I would have Harbaugh in the top 10. I would have Nick Sirianni in the top 10. I mean, this list is whack.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some truth to that, like Lamar helps John Harbaugh win. Obviously, John Harbaugh won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Then people will try to say, well, that was because of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. And I don't want to take away from Ed or Ray, but they were definitely at the end of their careers too. And that season was not great. And then, really, Joe Flacco just went on an incredible run. But if you're going to do that to John Harbaugh and say, well, I take away success because of Lamar, then you have to do that to everybody. Andy Reid didn't win a Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes. He went to the NFC Championship game a few times with the Eagles, but he never won a Super Bowl without Mahomes. Who is Bill Belichick without Tom Brady? Well, Walsh had Montana, Steve Young. Like, if you go back and find me any great head coach, and there's a great quarterback with him. So I have a hard time punishing Harbaugh for having Lamar, but you don't punish anybody else for their quarterbacks. Sean McVay, I think he's great. And Matt Stafford isn't Lamar Jackson, but he's a good quarterback, you know? And so LaFleur has Love, who isn't, again, Lamar, but they haven't done anything either. And so, like, again, you go back and you find great coaches. Almost all of them have great quarterbacks along the way. And so Mike Tomlin, he won a Super Bowl when he had Roethlisberger. He hasn't since. He's been more of like a 500 coach. He gets them to about 8-8, sometimes sneaks into the playoffs, but without a great quarterback, he hasn't done much. And if you put John Harbaugh on a lot of teams, I think he'd have them right where Mike Tomlin always has the Steelers, right on that edge of making the playoffs, even if he didn't have Lamar. You know, Lamar definitely puts it over the top where it's like, as long as he's healthy, they're going to the playoffs. And so I just don't get why you punish Harbaugh for having Lamar, but you're not going to punish other coaches for their great quarterbacks. I just think it's inconsistent and therefore unfair to Harbaugh.